by our financial highlights. So, SMS Pharma was established in 1990. SMS Pharma is a global API intermediates player with strong research and manufacturing team supported by state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities. It has capabilities for a wide range of APIs, intermediates, and has handled varied process reactions and reactor volumes up to 3000 KL. Undertaking contract manufacturing of API and advanced and basic intermediates, offering a competitive advantage to the clients, especially in the later stage life cycle of the products. With a demonstrated manufacturing excellence over the last 2 decades in a broad portfolio of therapeutic segments, the company has become a trusted partner to a customer base in over 70 countries, including clientele in top 20 pharmaceutical companies. The API segment is focused on providing products across a diverse range of therapies such as ERVs, antivirals, anti-ulcer, anti-migraine, anti-epileptic, anti-erectile dysfunction. The strategy is to focus on equality, market leadership, and backward integration driven by strong R&D capabilities in these key therapeutic areas. More than 90% of the consolidated revenue is derived through the API business. The company is also engaged in providing quality alternative manufacturing destinations to various large domestic and multinational pharma companies for their contract research and manufacturing needs. As mentioned earlier, the strategy has always been to focus on quality and market leadership. As a result, rather than offering a wide array of products, the company manufactures around 36 products across 14 therapeutic segments, with a significant market share for those products domestically or globally, while maintaining the highest standards of quality. The company enjoys global and domestic leadership in key complex specialized products like famotidine, rizatriptan, tadalafil, sumatriptan, tenofovir, ranolazine, levetiracetam, efavirenz, sitagliptin, etc. Currently, there are two state-of-the-art strategically located manufacturing facilities at Hyderabad and Visakhapatnam. Hyderabad facility has an installed capacity of 120 KL, predominantly focuses on niche, high-value, low-volume products such as rizatriptan, tadalafil, sumatriptan, itraconazole, and elytriptan. It enjoys regulatory approvals for major regulated and semi-regulated markets. This facility is one of the largest exporter of triptans. Our second facility is the Vizag facility with an installed capacity of 3000 KL. It is a flagship multi-purpose API manufacturing facility aligned for manufacturing niche and large volume molecules such as ibuprofen, tenofovir, ranolazine, levetiracetam, lamivudine, lamotrigine, efavirenz, sitagliptin, etc. This facility is one of the largest dedicated single block single product facility in Asia. This plant also houses a huge CMO facility to cater to highly reputed clientele. We also have a joint venture with the Spanish pharma giant Chemo for research and development. The objective of the JV is to develop products, manufacture them at company's manufacturing facility. The technical ownership of the JV products will be the property of the JV company, which includes DMF for the products under JV. It has a robust pipeline under development and is expected to contribute significantly to the top and the bottom line going forward. For an API manufacturer, strong R&D is a backbone. Our R&D is equipped with cutting-edge technology and sophisticated equipment that has capabilities to support the entire R&D life cycle. Around 20 new products have been added to the product basket over the past few years, along with optimizing many APIs. 80 DMFs and over 30 process patents have been filed till date. Global presence, strong domain expertise, cost leadership through backward integration, economies of scale, and long-standing relationship with suppliers and customers has created a unique value proposition. As a result, we have emerged as sustainable, scalable, self-reliant API player. Over the years, we've strategically invested in backward integration to be self-reliant and reduce the supply chain risk, along with creating de-risked and integrated value chains. Approximately 80% of the intermediates are consumed by the in-house API business, with a very low dependency on China for raw material sourcing, which is approximately 10 to 15%. A well diversified value proposition across geographies, markets, therapies, products, and customers provides risk reduction and opens multiple growth avenues. In terms of markets and geographies, regulated markets contributed 52% of sales in FY21, with USA being the highest at 37%. Semi-regulated markets contributed 41% of the sales in FY21, with Africa being the highest at 38%. The domestic markets contributed 7% of the sales in FY21. None of the regions contributed to more than two-thirds of the revenue, with Africa contributing the highest at 38% of total sales. In terms of customer concentration, the domestic market, the largest client contributes 35% of the domestic sales, whereas the top 10 clients contribute 76%. In the export markets, largest client contributes 20% export sales, whereas the top 10 clients contribute to 80%. With rupees 200 crores capex investment at our Vizag facility in FY21, the company is fully geared up for the next level of growth. This brownfield capex is aimed towards the capacity augmentation of multiple products and therapies. The incremental capacity addition through the capex is 1300 KL, predominantly aimed towards ibuprofen capacity expansion. With this expansion, SMS Pharma is expected to be one of the largest ibuprofen manufacturers globally in the coming years. The majority of the capex is funded through internal accruals and minimum debt, thus maintaining a robust balance sheet position. Higher margins and profitability ratios are expected through operating leverage and incremental revenues. By leveraging long-standing relationships, domain expertise, and strong R&D knowledge, the company is also foraying into new therapies, products, and geographies. Now coming to the financial highlights for the quarter and half year ended September 30th, 2021. I'll start with the quarterly highlights first. The consolidated revenue stood at 174.7 crores, up by 34% year on year. The robust revenue trajectory was primarily driven by a pickup in the volume. EBITDA stood at 48.2 crores, up 96% year over year. EBITDA margins expanded by approximately 870 bps to 27.6, driven by operating leverage and improved product mix. Profit after tax grew 123% year over year to rupees 25 crores. This performance is a testimony of company's agility, adaptability, and strong execution capability. The growth trajectory is expected to accelerate in the coming quarters, underpinned by company's leadership position in top therapeutic areas, strong demand, healthy product launch pipeline. Now coming to first half FY22 highlights. The consolidated revenue stood at 337.7 crores, up by 39% year over year. EBITDA stood at 93.9 crores, up 100% year over year. EBITDA margins expanded by approximately 850 bps to 27.8%. Profit after tax grew 136% year over year to rupees 48.2 crores. The robust performance was driven by improved product mix, pickup in key therapeutic areas, and operating leverage. I'll briefly touch upon the API segment highlights. Q2 and first half of FY22 revenue for the API segment stood at 174 crores and 324.9 crores, up 42 and 39% year over year respectively. Q2 and first half of FY22 API segment contributed approximately 99% and 96% to the consolidated revenue respectively, with the API segment 8% of the revenues came from the domestic market, 92% from the export market, which also included deemed exports for Q2 FY22. Within the therapeutic areas, the antiretroviral therapeutic category contributed 55%, anti-migraine 14%, anti-ulcer 10%, anti-epileptic 10%, anti-erectile dysfunction 5%, and the rest contributed to around 6% to the total sales for Q2 FY22. The company continues to focus on increasing the contribution to high value and margin lucrative therapies going forward. The balance sheet continued to remain robust. The net debt to equity stood at 0.5x as against 0.4x as of March 2021. The net debt equity is expected to reduce going forward, driven by strong internal accruals and lower debt requirement. I think that's it from me for now. We can begin the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Participants who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Shanti Patel from Shanti Patel Investment Advisor. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. I hope my voice is reaching. Hello?
Please, your voice is very clear. Yes. Please go ahead.
Very clear. I wanted to know regarding this expansion plan of 200 crores, what will be the turnover which may be generated from, and what will be the PAT margin expected from that? That is question number 1.
Sure. You want us to answer this, or are you going to ask another question so that we can answer?
No, first let me get the answer, then I will
sure, no
answer
problem.
the second.
Sure. Our CFO, I think Mr. Lakshmi Narayana, who's on the call, will take this question.
Sure.
Yeah, sir. Good morning. That whatever you asked about the incremental revenue of the ibuprofen, correct?
You are right.
Yeah, and
the reason is because one of the leading manufacturers of that particular product is facing some trouble.
Yeah, we completed the expansion mode during the last financial year, and the gear upping in the whatever the ED has already said about this product, the gear upping in the revenues in the current year. And expected to that we can't say immediately, but the revenue we are expecting, there is a incremental revenue of about 15 to 20% of the total revenue. And the PAT margins, we are sustainably maintaining the same margins of the company.
So you mean to say the PAT margin will be similar to what you are getting today?
No. Overall, we are maintaining the margins of the PAT margins. The PAT margins as compared to the existing therapeutics, is compared to the existing therapeutics is low.
Correct.
But,
so if I could,
overall, we are maintaining the whatever the last 3-4 quarters we are maintaining the margins, that we are anticipated to maintain the same margins and improving side.
Okay.
So, and just to jump into that, actually.
Sure.
So for ibuprofen, we are aware of the recent current market crunch, which I know what you're referring to. So based on that, see, this is a long-term project for us. See, it's not a very short-term project for us, or that we want to make quick money and probably move out of this. This is a very long-term project, long-term vision for us. So that's the reason we've invested so much capex into this particular project alone. And see, it's a slow process, first initially, because it will take time. Our major focus will be on obviously regulated market, because that is a US FDA site. So our major focus will be US, Europe and other regulated markets. So in order for us, we just commercialized this project very recently. For us to get an approval in those markets will take time. In the meantime, our incremental growth will slowly start happening on ibuprofen, where we initially start offering into domestic, lower ROW countries, and then slowly, once we get approval from these regulated markets, then slowly our sales and the profits will obviously increase based on the incremental year-wise growth.
Oh, and second question is, what is our return on capital employed and return on equity as on the close of second quarter?
Sorry, could you repeat your question, please?
what is the return on capital employed and return on equity that we are making?
Yeah, I think Mr. Lakshmana, you want to answer that?
Yes. Sir, you wanted about the FY21?
That's correct. 21-22 means.
Yeah. 21-22. 21-22, sir, then whatever you already seen about the first quarter and second quarter result, and the capital return on capital employed has improved as compared to the previous year. And the same line of length of we are anticipating to the running of that same ratio.
So you need to say on 31st March 2022, the return on capital employed and return on equity will be probably the same as we have got in H1.
Correct.
Correct. Can you agree? Will you be able to quantify just now, because I want to go through everything? If you can.
So slightly break your voice, sir.
No, if you can quantify both. Just to,
quantifying of the thing is it's a very early stage, sir. Then you have to assess your own itself. We are confident to maintaining the sustainability is the existing level, and by improving some up. Since you already seen about the last 2-3 quarters, and the last year financial results is one of the best results in the entire company history, and the first quarter and second quarter also you already seen that. Based on that, we are saying that is continuing the same thing.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think on the overall perspective, I think on the top line and bottom line, I think we are anticipating a 15 to 20% growth rate than what we've done last year. So we are on track for the first half. We are on track to achieve it. So hopefully, I think in the next 2 quarters, I think we'll be working towards that. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, to ask a question, please press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Surti R from Smith Capital Limited. Please go ahead.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, please. You're audible. Please go ahead.
Okay. Sir, I have one question, and that is regarding ibuprofen. The thing is that we believe that there was some demand, pricing, and market share problems recently. So I just wanted to know how is the demand, pricing, and the domestic and exports market outlook as of now?
Thank you for your question. So as you rightly said, I think just to give you a small history about ibuprofen, last 3-4 years back, I think ibuprofen sales, I mean, there was a shortage. The product was under shortage. So the prices have reached a very good high. And since the last 1 year, I think a lot of companies have come up, and obviously the prices have come down because of supply demand. The prices have come down. And considering that, I think because of COVID also, the demand of ibuprofen has come down a little. But again, as I was mentioning earlier, see, this is not a very short-term project for FMH. This is going to be a very, very long-term project. We will be in this product for a very long term, and we are vertically integrated on this particular product, and we want to be in this product till the end. So irrespective of the prices, the demand, we are definitely going to be there in this product. I definitely agree that there is definitely price pressure that is currently happening, and definitely I think that is mostly coming from the domestic and ROW markets. Even for US markets also, the demand has come down because of the COVID happening. But I think we are slowly seeing a slight uptick in demand from the last 1.5 month again. So hopefully I think it will come back. But again, there will definitely be price pressures. But we've developed process in such a way to handle those price pressures. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, sir. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashish Rathi from Lucky Investment. Please go ahead.
I thank you for the opportunity. Sir, I'll be honest, and I really had a chance to completely go through the presentation, and I've met you in the past, quite some time back, 5 years back. So my knowledge is very limited. So please pardon me for that. I just want to take an update from you. Firstly, if you could explain a little bit more about this CHEMO, contract CDMO you're talking about, the Spanish pharma joint venture you're talking about. When did this happen? What are we doing exactly here? How big is the contract? How many years? What kind of sales and profitability? If you could indicate, please, it'll be very helpful for us to understand.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for your question. So definitely, see, this JV has the incorporation has just been done last year, but I think the agreements of this JV has almost been signed in from 2016-17. I think this discussions have already been going on and agreements have been signed. So this particular joint venture says that together CHEMO and SMS will develop projects together, and it will be developed at SMS R&D center, and the products will be commercialized from SMS API facility. And so CHEMO, being a very large, strong European partner, has the rights to market these products in the entire world, and SMS has the right to market these products in India and the subcontinent. So the profits again are split in the ratio that was agreed, and so that's the basic arrangement. And as of now, I think we've almost commercialized 2 projects. We've already commercialized, and commercially selling these 2 projects actively. And there are another 3 projects. Once the patents are expired, we will commercialize them.
Okay. So what are these 2 projects being commercially sold right now?
So one is Renology, that is part of the joint venture, and one more is Perampanel, that is currently being sold in the domestic market because patent expired recently. Future down the line, I think sitagliptin, all the gliptins, sitagliptin, vildagliptin will be sold on the JV. And apart from that, there are flozins, canagliflozin, dapagliflozin, all the flozins and pagliflozin that are being and it's being developed already. It's being currently validated at our plant site.
So some of these molecules which you are saying, the ones you said are in the patent. Which are the molecules in the patent? Because the sitagliptin, vildagliptin, most of them are off patent, right?
No. Sitagliptin is still not off patent. Sitagliptin is going off patent next year, I think next June in India, and I think maybe July or August, I think in Europe. So next year. So even vildagliptin also in India it's off, but in US, Europe, and all the regulated countries it's still under patent. So these Renology is off patent, and that's also just I think 1.5 year back. I think it's just got off patent. And even Perampanel, we've started supplying locally. In India, there is no patent. So some of our customers have got approvals in the domestic market, so they are taking some good requirements from that product.
What is the profit sharing structure like? Is it a cost plus basis we are selling for the other market?
Yes. Cost plus basis, yes.
The cost plus would be like a 20% kind of a number. Is the respectable
around 15%, around industrial margin of 15%. Yes.
And profit sharing, this is the cost plus. What is the profit sharing? The profit sharing applies in Indian markets or what?
So I'm sorry. The profit sharing is we sell in the respective markets, and once a quarter or once a year we reconsolidate and we split the margins, and whoever owes to whom will automatically be transferred accordingly.
Sorry, sir, not clear. So when you're making, say, the Perampanel or Renology,
correct.
Then what you're doing is you're making it for chemo for other markets. Mostly the regulated markets, the drugs that is off patent. So you're supplying the APIs to chemo. Is that what you're doing? And you take the intermediates.
Yeah, in APIs only. APIs. So we have a transfer price. So we have a transfer price at which we supply to both of them. So once whatever the excess price they sell on that profit, we split the profit.
So there's a 15% cost plus basis transfer price.
That's right.
And then you have a profit share on the selling price, correct?
Exactly. That's right.
What is the profit share then?
Yeah. So profit share, I think, I think we can disclose this, right? Because I think it's a public information, right?
Sir, that's an open document since we already disclosed it. 55%.
Okay, yeah. So it's 55, 45.
45 is the SMS pharma.
So
45
45. Yeah, 45 is SMS, 55 is chemo, yeah.
45 SMS. Perfect. So what gets us so excited about this project? So like this whole joint venture.
Correct. So see, here the advantage, the biggest advantage that we have here is Chemo is one of the biggest companies in Europe, where they have a wide variety of customers, where unfortunately SMS currently does not have tap into, right? So those customers have been completely tapped for some of these projects. For like sitagliptin and few other projects, all these customers have been tapped. And for some of the other projects where we are very strong in the US market, like domestically, where some of the Indian manufacturers who are selling in the US market, so there where we are very strong, so basically we join forces. They are very strong in Europe, we are very strong in Indian market. So we are creating some good avenues for this particular joint venture. Like we are one of the largest in Renomazine as such, in terms of, because we are commercially selling this product. We are one of the largest based on our strategic partnership. So this actually excites us quite a bit, because I mean it's a very big joint venture with Chemo, but it still has to flourish, because obviously all these are just sample quantities that we're still selling, because the patents are still not expired. So once the patents are done, I think you will see good progress on that, on the commercial front.
Right. So I understand. So it will take some time, and it will progress in its own way, on its own course. But on a broader vision, like a 3 to 5 year old, 3 to 5 year horizon, can we look at this as a meaningful, the entire JV contribution to top line and bottom line, northwards of 20-25% of the company?
Yes. You could easily look at that as the 20%. Yes, around 15 to 20. I wouldn't say 25%. I would say 15 to 20%. Yes.
All right. And I saw the PPT, and I remember from the last conversation which we had, your primarily still appears to be an ARV manufacturing company.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
I
correct.
believe efavirenz was our largest product. Correct.
Correct. So that was back then, I believe. So now I think tenofovir has caught up actually. Yeah.
Tenofovir. Okay.
Yeah.
And tenofovir, we do the various combinations also, or we just sell tenofovir?
No, we are the API manufacturer, right? So we just do the API. So I mean, our formulators do the combination. So we just do the API.
Who would be our clients here for tenofovir?
I'm sorry?
Who would be the key clients for tenofovir?
Oh, so that is a little confidential information. That so we are doing
Indian clients or
Indian clients. We're doing CMO for a couple of big players in India. Yes.
And how big is the revenue for tenofovir out of the 57% of the top line? Which is ARV.
Okay.
40% is tenofovir?
1 second. I think we've of the ARV segments. I think this quarter, I mean this half year, I think they contributed to 57%. That's right.
Yeah.
So majority is AR. Majority is efavirenz actually. Sorry, majority is tenofovir. I'm sorry. Yeah, majority is tenofovir.
Yeah. We don't do anything in terms of dolutegravir or anything. We are making that, or
Not yet, not as of now. But yeah, we validated the product, but it's not picked up. And the volume of dolutegravir is also not that high. You know, it's a small dosage. It's a 50 mg dosage, right? So the volume is also not very high.
I'm the one asking questions. The operator, if you want me to stop, I will stop, and someone else in the queue can take them. I can come back later. Otherwise, I can continue, sir, with your permission. Okay, I'll assume I can kind of continue.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. If
yes,
you can please come back in the queue.
I will, surely, no issues. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhaval Shah from Swan Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello. Good morning, sir. This is Sachin Kasra here. 2-3 questions, sir. One on this ibuprofen. We have seen that the margins recently have come under pressure for all the key players. So could you just comment a bit on what is like the demand supply pricing scenario there, and what is going to be our strategy?
Sure. See, on ibuprofen, we are playing a long game. We are not playing a very short game as of now. See, as of now, we've just started selling sample quantities, small quantities. We are sowing all the seeds for all the regulatory customers for US, Europe. All these markets will be our main primary focus markets. So apart from that, we've been slowly selling the product in the domestic market as well, also slowly. And see, definitely we understand that there is definitely price pressure in this product. And see, one big advantage with our ibuprofen that we are currently doing is the batch size. My batch size currently is 6 metric tons. I think in the market, I think if I'm not wrong, we are the highest batch size company that is doing this product at that scale. And in future, we want to make it a 11 ton batch size, actually. So we have all the equipment to do that 11 ton batch size. So we are working on those. So some small ways we are trying to figure out, optimize it, see wherever we can say. See, end of the day, this is a commodity product. SMS is known for commodity products. Like SMS is the largest, was the largest producer for ranitidine, which is a commodity product again. Again, when we entered this product, there were 23 players or something, and we became the largest player, the world's largest player on this product. That's also a commodity product, So this is our bread and butter, commodity products, playing them is our strength, and definitely we are playing to our strengths, and this is definitely a long-term product and long-term vision for SMS. It's not something that a quick revenue can be spun out of it, and it's definitely a long run project for SMS.
So what is our current capacity on a monthly or yearly basis for ibuprofen, and what are our aspirations? Do you want to be like among the top 2-3 players globally?
Yes, absolutely. And currently our capacity is around 500 metric tons. And we built a block for 1,000 metric tons per month capacity, but we've not installed everything. So obviously we are taking phase-wise. So the first phase is already completed. It's around 500 metric tons per month is the capacity.
So you mentioned that your reactor will go from 6 tons to 11 tons. So once you go to this 11 tons, that's when your capacity will become 1,000 tons per month?
No. So that's speculative, right? So again, if you increase the batch size, the time cycle also will increase, right? So you cannot do a direct comparison in that sense. But yeah, I think it might increase by 100 metric tons here or there. Yes.
So eventually we will be like 1,000 ton capacity in ibuprofen.
Exactly. Based on once we start getting more orders, we will slowly incrementally, once we hit that 70%, 80% on a consistent basis, we will go for our next phase of expansion to 1,000 tons.
And what is your assessment today? Are we, according to you, because of our skill set, we are probably the lowest cost, or that will happen only once we reach much larger capacity?
No, see, we need some scale of operation, to be honest with you. We need some scale of operation. We need to start selling some product, and we need some continuous customers to start picking up the product, which is definitely happening. So once we get to a scale, once we start, say for example, like in 500 tons, we start producing every month 300, 350 tons, right? So that's when we have that scale. So once we get that scale of operation, that's when the real crunch starts coming in, and we tighten the screws on the, we'll see how to reduce the cost even further and see how we can achieve a bigger, little higher margins. So that's where it will actually come at. See, selling 50 tons or 100 tons at this point of time will not give us that leverage or that opportunity. Once we hit a certain threshold, that will probably give us a better benefit.
Sure. Secondly, sir, this 200 crores capex that you mentioned, so what is like the ramp-up plan, and what is the type of revenues we can expect to come from this new block over the next 2 to 3 years?
So as of now, I think it's only, I think this question has already been answered. I think the first question was this. So see, definitely I think we are expecting the 200 crores that we put in. We are expecting a 20% growth in our top and bottom line. And again, so it will be a stage-wise, it has to be, I mean, this is a product that has to be taken up with a lot of patience, ibuprofen. So it might not do miracles overnight, but it will definitely be one of our, we will definitely be in this product for a very long term, and it will slowly add up revenues, because in the initial year we're only focusing mostly on domestic and ROW markets, because it will take time, DMF approvals for our ANDA partners to get their approvals. It will take time. They have to do the qualification, they have to do stability, which is 6 months time. Again, they have to file with the agency. That will again, review time is another 6 months to 1 year. So again, that will take another year and a half. So we are betting on all these Europe and US commitments a little.
We are expecting you will get full capacity from this new plant?
Yes. That's the plan. Yeah. FY24, I think you will be able to see a full-fledged ibuprofen block going.
And by that time, we should be like a 800 to 1,000 crore revenue company. So basically, once we achieve 800,000 crores, we will have to do incremental capex again for growth.
Exactly. So I think that's the plan. I think post 1,000 crores, we will be looking at more capex expansion.
And that will have to be done in greenfield, or we still have a lot of infrastructure to keep expanding brownfield?
So I think I mean it's too early to comment, I guess, but I'm guessing I think a greenfield probably will be the direction. But again, this is very early to comment on that. But yeah, we are getting a greenfield because I think our facility in Vizag has also reached its capacity. So I know though it's a 100-acre site, but there's a lot of space available. But you know that the threshold probably will be crossed. So I think we'll probably have to look at a greenfield facility. But again, that's very, very early to decide on that at this point.
Sure. Last question was on the margins. So we used to be in the 90 to 20% margin band. Last 4-5 quarters, we are now closer to 25% band. And we have been, seeing the numbers as well as, hearing that there is a lot of pressure on the API side. We are one of the very few companies, in fact, this quarter we sustained the margins. So how should we look at this margin scenario going forward?
Sure. So you see, definitely, I think the margin scenario is that's the biggest advantage of a backward integrated company because because most of the companies you see probably maybe if ibuprofen we are also doing, maybe I think we will also have a little price pressure because of the Chinese this thing. But see, as of now, I think our majority of the intermediates for key products are all done in house, or if not, we are actually bringing them in house. So I think that has created us a quick leverage, and obviously I think we are also not increasing the cost because customers also are very, very important. So we are not increasing the cost to the customers. So I think we are trying to take that small burden, whatever it is. But yeah, I think also one more very key important thing is our own products. Apart from the CMO projects, our own products started picking up. Last 2-3 quarters you've seen our own products have picked up quite well. So because of that, it's more than CMO. If your own products goes, your margins are sort of better, right? So that's what has happened. And if you see the percentage of revenue, like comparatively, I think our own products have increased compared to ARVs or CMOs. So that's the reason for that. Yeah.
And this 200 crores capex, large part of it is gone for manufacturing ibuprofen?
Yes. I think it's a dedicated block that we've built for ibuprofen. Obviously, other major products also can be handled, but yeah, as of now, we've dedicated to ibuprofen. Where we bought in 30 KL reactors, which are very, very huge in size. So yeah, any other major products can also be done there, but predominantly we are only focusing on ibuprofen on that.
And are we also vertical?
Thank you, Mr. Shah, but may I request you to please rejoin the queue?
Yes, madam. Just continuation of this last ibuprofen thing. So are you also vertically integrated in this ibuprofen?
Yes and no, but one of the key SM we buy from outside. But yeah, I think again, as I told you, right, till we achieve that threshold, it's not required for us because the contribution of that KSM is hardly 20% in our ibuprofen costing. So it's not 50-60% above it. So it's not crossing our threshold to make it in-house actually, to be honest with you, as per our process. Our process is slightly different from the current existing players in the market. So yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Hiten Boricha from Joindre Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah. Good morning, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is on the Visakhapatnam plant. So our current capacity is 300 KL, and this is excluding the 1300 KL, which is going to commercialize in Q4, right?
No. This is including that actually.
Okay. So this
total volume is 3,000 KL, yes.
Including 1300.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, okay. And sir, can you help me with the what kind of asset turnover we are expecting from this 200 crore kind of capex?
Yeah. So again, as we just answered previously, the same question, I believe, right? I think so that predominantly that is being the capex has been whatever block that is built is dedicated to ibuprofen. So again, we are expecting an overall growth of, as a company, as an overall growth of about 15 to 20% top and bottom line. So based on that, again, in a couple of years, we require 2 years to commercialize that block fully. So I think you will see the actual revenues from that block maybe FY24. So yeah, at that point of time, it will be expecting to be around 20-25% from where we are by end of this year. So.
Okay. So I have one more question on the bookkeeping side. That's on the inventory level.
Okay.
Am I audible, sir? Hello?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
So our inventory has gone up from 140 odd crores to 220 odd crores YOY. So can you help me? What is the reason behind that, and is it going to normalize going forward?
Yes, sure. Mr. Lakshmana, you want to explain on that, or you want to?
Yeah. Sir, I'll explain you that inventory level is increasing because of we are buffer inventory we are putting to that by considering the global factor, one of the major reason. And another thing is my ED will explain you about the COVID related products. And the whatever the inventory is increased from last year to this first half year is only increasing of our product portfolio and volume of the product portfolio, and we are maintaining the high buffer because of the global factor. Sir, explain about the code.
Sure. So again, as he mentioned, right, so we have multiple factors here. So first one is, I think, global, shortages and, China shutdowns and all. So we've put in inventory just to make sure that we don't run out of intermediates or a couple of other things. And apart from that, I think that if that's minor, I think we are doing a lot of work on some of these COVID projects. I think so. Some of these projects we've made sure that we've gotten some inventory from outside, from China, and we are waiting for a couple of approvals on some of these projects. So once we get those approvals, I think those inventory will definitely normalize. I think in the next 1-2 quarters, I think it will definitely normalize.
Okay. And sir, one more question on the other expenses side. Other expenses.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sir, our other expenses is declined by from 6 crores to 4.5 crores on QOQ basis. So actually, the other expense, I just wanted to understand how is the logistic cost and everything is playing in the other expenses side. Is that it should go up on quarter basis? I just want to understand how are you managing this thing.
No, the logistic expenses it depends upon the market conditions only. I think you are already aware of it. Recently, the Q2, tag end of Q2, there are increase of the logistic cost by all globally. That we are directly showing to the headwise into my books. Hello.
Sorry to interrupt. May I request Mr. Hitan Bodisa to please rejoin the queue? We have participants waiting for the turn, sir.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. The next question is from the line of Aegis Lakhani from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Aegis, but we cannot hear you, sir. Mr. Aegis, may we request you to unmute yourself if muted from your handset? As there is no response, we'll move to the next question, which is from the line of Praveen from Prosperity Wealth. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So earlier you had mentioned that incremental revenue for FY22 would be roughly 15 to 20% from the previous quarters. So what would you attribute this to? And we also see that you've developed a few COVID-related APIs, Favipiravir and Remdesivir. Now that the COVID, pandemic has slightly, has gone down and reduced. So, what do you see this going forward? How would this API help you in the coming quarters?
Sure. Thanks for your question. So again, as discussed earlier, see, I think our current customers are picking up the products as per schedule, and we've added new customers. We've added new customers for the same products. Some of the customers we've pitched in products for approval for development phase last 2-3 years. I have been getting approvals recently, and I think they started picking up the product. I think product-wise also, our own products and our own formulation facility, I think one facility is going up. I think it's picking up some API as well. So considering all that, so we projected 15% on a conservative basis, 15% year-over-year growth actually, because our current products are also increasing because we've expanded the portfolio. We've got into new products. Obviously, ibuprofen will impact revenues from this year onwards, and obviously it will not be that high, but yeah, obviously some impact will definitely be there on ibuprofen, and our regular products are also doing quite well. So that's the major highlight of that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's it from me.
The next question is from the line of P.D. Gupta from Investors Forum. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, good morning. And actually, at the outset, I congratulate all at SMS Pharma for good set of numbers. And secondly, for starting this con call, a good platform to interact with the investors. Thank you for that. Sir, my question is only one that so many questions already come and replied. So particularly on ibuprofen, NPPA in July has increased the price 50% in India. Will it be beneficial to us?
I'm sorry, you just broke off. I couldn't hear your question. Could you just repeat it again?
In India, NPPA has increased the price of ibuprofen by 50%.
Correct.
So whether we will be benefited by it in supply to India?
Sure. So the problem there was, I think, the number of manufacturers parallelly. I think the number of so it is again multiple factors affected it. So because of COVID, I think the ibuprofen globally has gone down a little. So that was one of the key drivers. And apart from that, I think the number of competitors also have increased, I think, on ibuprofen. So based on that, that impact is not very high because again supply demand, right? So number of players offering this product is high, the demand is lower, and obviously the prices will obviously be little on the lower side. So that is the current thing that is impacting. Again, as we told you, Mr. P.D. Gupta, that again it's not a short-term investment for us. Definitely, it's a long-term product for us. We are definitely going to be in this product, and based on our history with some of these commodity products, we've done well. Like famotidine, again, we are one of the world's largest. Ranitidine, again, one of the world's largest. So like that. So in that scenario, we are definitely very confident on ibuprofen that definitely it will be a long-run product for SMS, and definitely there will be good revenues coming out of this product in the future.
Okay. My second question is, what is our order position as on date for contract manufacturing, export and domestic sale? Can you please let me know?
Is it for ARVs or like order book on hand?
The total order position, total book order. Total order book position.
Yeah, Lakshmi, can we give all this information or is it really confidential?
I think we may take back. Mr. Gupta ji, that the company is having a sufficient order book for the current financial year.
Okay.
And having a clientele for the long-standing relation with the clientele, and the market conditions for our products is also in the favor. Whatever ibuprofen things already explained in detail. And the company is good maintaining the order book.
Okay. Thank you. And once again, thanks for the starting this con call. And please continue to interact with the investor at the appropriate time. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anish Munka from GST Investment. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So, have you seen any inventory stocking this quarter from customers' end? And if you did, then how much were we affected? Thank you.
So typically we've not seen too much inventory stocking from the customer's end. From our customers' end, we've not seen too much of inventory stocking. It's a regular business that's happening. So I mean, like unlike last year, so this year we've not. Last year there was FY 19-20. There was some. FY 2021, there were some stocking at this stage because the pandemic was at peak, and I think the customers were a little worried about the product coming out of India because of the lockdowns and other scenarios. So at that point of time, the stocking was quite high. But this time, I think this time around, I don't think that the customers are placing advance orders. So it's as per our regular business schedule. There's no emergency buy or anything on that.
Did you see some destocking happening this quarter?
Not much. Also, it's not much. I mean, it didn't have much impact on us actually. So it's like a regular, maybe 1-2 products maybe might have happened, but our regular business is going smooth actually. Yeah.
So what is the vision for the CDMO segment in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, what is our competitive advantage? And are we only present in end of life cycle management? And what sort of a business are we targeting from there?
So currently, we've not taken up actively CDMO business at this point of time, to be honest with you. So we are still at the initial stages for the CDMO business. So the only CDMO that we are doing is for that joint venture that we are doing, where so Restall is our product in our process. But definitely, I think this is one particular segment that SMS is very keen to get into further, and definitely want to foray into this in the near future. But as of now, we've actually are in the very initial stages, and the only CDMO that we're doing is for the JV right now. So we definitely have plans to get into this in the near future.
Okay, just a final question, sir. So is the new capacity fungible enough to be used for other molecules, and how much time will it take? Additionally, how much cost competitive do we think we are compared to the existing ibuprofen players who are already backwardly integrated?
Correct. So again, so 2 questions. So the first one is, I think we are definitely this line can definitely be converted and used for other products also, if that's your question. So the second one is definitely we are competitive. Again, as I mentioned clearly on the batch size, which we have one of the highest batch sizes that is currently being operated in the market. So for such a commodity product, analytical cost is also a very important parameter. So when you increase your batch size, the cost of analysis obviously decreases by 5 times than what our competitors are doing. So apart from that, raw materials definitely, again, as I very clearly mentioned in the past also. So once we get that scale of operation, that actually helps us to work more aggressively on this particular product and see how we are in the market. We need to acquire that volume first. Then we can probably go on the cost at that point of time.
Sorry to interrupt. May I request Mr. Munka to please rejoin the queue?
Just a part of this question. So how much time will it take to transfer from ibuprofen to other products, sir? Just this question.
Well, it depends on product to product, product to product, equipment feasibility, maybe 3 to 4 months max, I guess, depending on product and feasibility.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Surbi R from Smiths Capital Limited. Please go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, my question is again a follow-up on my earlier question regarding ibuprofen.
Mm-hmm.
You said that the demand and pricing pressure is continuing, and in the last 1 month you have seen a slight uptick in the demand.
Correct.
So, sir, I just wanted to know if you could give some long-term view of the demand and pricing scene both in the domestic and export market. Do you see the numbers going back to pre-COVID level? If yes, then by when?
No, absolutely. Definitely, I think the pre-COVID level, we are definitely going to see this ibuprofen crawl back into, because this is a very age-old product and definitely those numbers will come. But again, it's very tough to predict the timeline, but our estimation is maybe it will take a year and a half to probably reach to those levels in terms of volume. Obviously, but pricing definitely depends on the competitors, right? Because in the past, obviously, there was one or two competitors in the market. Obviously, the pricing will be dictated by that. But more competitors will actually, reduce the pricing. But definitely, I think in terms of volume, as we mentioned, I think in the next 1-2 years, I think 1.5 year, I think it should be back to the levels where it was.
Okay, sir. That's quite informative. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashish Rathi from Lucky Investment. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Sir, so FY22, you're saying 15-20% top line growth and bottom line growth?
Yes, that's the target. Yeah, that's the target, actually. Yeah.
Which means no growth in the second half, because we've done 39% in the first half on top line, 139% on the bottom line.
Correct. Again, when we give out projections, it will be conservative, right? So that's a conservative projection that we are projecting. And again, see, first half.
Yeah, third quarter almost, sir. I mean, that is what we are expecting. The third quarter, you'll have some visibility on the entire year, right?
Definitely.
No, but top line. Yes, 15%.
Correct. The thing was in the first 1-2 quarters, there were some good opportunities on some COVID projects where we had some good sales. That was opportunistic, right? So that was not planned or that was not forecasted. So that's opportunistic. Again, there we are also betting on a couple of other projects which we cannot disclose at this point of time, but definitely there are some projects that we are banking on, but you don't forecast those in your projections, right? So you will be a little more pessimistic when you give such projections out. But definitely, I think the vision and this thing of the company is very clear that there will definitely be growth that will be shown on this year.
Sir, on ibuprofen, you are doing 500 MTPS per month right now, correct? That is what
we are not doing it, but that's a capacity we will install.
And you are indicating 1,000 MTPS per month, say 3 years out, right?
Correct.
So that is 12,000 MTPS per annum. At the current market price, even if I assume $10 per kg, that will lead to around 750 crores of top line.
Correct.
You are saying 25% of 1,000 crore kind of a top line, that is 250 crores. Correct. I am not able to add the math here.
No. So this thing that we're talking about 3-4 years down the line, right? So this 1,000+ crores is we're talking about the numbers this 4-5 years down the line, correct? So that's, you've taken the 20-25% from today. So from today, every year you are expecting.
No, I'm assuming 25% of 1,000 crore top line of the company. So that's 250 crores.
Okay.
And you are saying 12,000 MTPS capacity. Even if I assume 70-80% utilization of that.
No. At that point of time, our revenue could be higher, right, than 1,000 crores. So that's what you're probably missing. So right now, yeah.
So 750 crores is the potential from this capacity which you are setting up, which is done by IOL Chemicals right now.
Correct. So this is 4 years down the line that we are projecting, yes.
4 years down the line, you expect that to contribute 750 crores. If the pricing remains at $10.
Exactly.
And isobutyl benzene we are not having in-house.
No, we are not having in-house, again, as I mentioned, right? So it's like the contribution of IBB in our product is hardly 20%. So it's 20%, 20-22%. So it's not a major limiting factor. So we've evaluated it. But again,
we want to set that up in-house later.
Maybe later. Yes, again, depending on the quantities, once we really, we have a couple of other parameters that we have to work on. Once we get all these, I think this is little lower down the priority order for us. So we are working on a couple of other strategies where we can get the pricing down. But yeah, this is a little on the lower priority list because obviously we don't have immediate impact on that. Yeah.
No, understood. And which are the 3 products, key intermediates we have? You said products we have the intermediates in-house?
So see, most of the products I think we have in house. Like some of the, like sumatriptan, we have it in house. Levetiracetam, we are bringing it in house. There is ranolazine that we do it in house. Elytriptan that we do it in house. So most of the products like tadalafil, we do it in house, and sildenafil, we do it from our sister company SMS Life Sciences. So like that, most of the products I think we have vertically integrated itself. I think most KSMs are. So that's typically our strategy when we launch. We launch with Chinese sources, but slowly once we get that scale of operations, most of those intermediates are bought in house to get competitiveness on the costing.
Sorry to interrupt. May I request Mr. Rathi to please rejoin the queue, sir? We have participants waiting for the turn. Thank you. The next question is from the line of C. Srihari from TCS Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah. Hi, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. So you have been mentioning about demand contraction in ibuprofen. So that is my first question. If you could please quantify the kind of volume contraction. And in this context, I don't think paracetamol has been facing a similar problem. So is it that paracetamol is cannibalizing on ibuprofen by any chance? That is one. And secondly, for the two other verticals, that is your contract manufacturing and the JV, if you could please indicate the capacity utilization for these two verticals. Thank you.
For JV versus our products, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, sure. So regarding paracetamol, see, to be honest with you, we've not done a lot of study on paracetamol because it's not in our radar. But yeah, typically because see, paracetamol also the number of competition players is a little lower. I think dependency on China for paracetamol is a little on the higher side. So the last I've seen, I think the prices have increased also of paracetamol. And see, paracetamol quantities have picked up. You've seen a couple of news articles from during the time of COVID. So that sort of brought a little pressure on ibuprofen. But again, so it's coming back to normalcy because that's once this COVID sort of settles down, I think we will see the ibuprofen numbers back to where they were in the past. So also because at like 3-4 years back there was a severe shortage. I think a couple of this thing has shifted to paracetamol, but I think now since ibuprofen is back and it's more cost competitive, I think we are very positive that the volume will be back.
What is the volume contraction? Can you please quantify that?
Overall contraction, it is I think it is around 8 to 10% is what I'm guessing, but yeah, I think it's around that range, 10% range.
So basically in tonnage, you sold around 8 to 10% lower.
Yes.
And what's your outlook on
typically because that's the market is what he's guessing because we've not supplied this product yet, so it's not had an impact on us. Yeah.
Oh.
Now, may I request Mr. Srihari to please rejoin the queue, sir?
It's in continuation, madam.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hello?
Your pricing outlook for ibuprofen?
I'm sorry?
Price outlook for ibuprofen?
So price outlook, again, see, at this point of time, there are a number of competitors on this product. So see, some of them are short term, some of them are long term. Definitely, I think pricing will be a very key aspect that we will have to keep in consideration. But see, judging by what at this moment, the only thing I could tell you is based on our history, which we have replicated over the last 2 decades, is like we are very, very strong on some of these commodity products. We've already proved it in some of these products where we've been very successful in some of these commodity products. So again, pricing at this point of time is not right to discuss because, I mean, it probably is an outlier at this point of time because of the number of players in this product. But definitely, I think after 1 year or maybe 1.5 years, I think the number of players slowly, because there might be new entrants, there might be exits, and definitely I think the price and the dust will settle down on ibuprofen. Once that is done, I think there is a good opportunity there.
Yeah, so that is of the capacity utilization of the contract manufacturing.
I think in our Vizag site, I think it will probably, we are only doing the joint venture in our Vizag site, not in our Hyderabad site. Our Hyderabad site is full. So in Vizag site, I think probably it will be around maybe again depends on volume. I think around 15% actually, approximately around 15% will be the volume for JV products.
That's 15 or 50?
15, 15 to 20%.
Okay. And for your contract manufacturing?
Contract manufacturing will again, I think that will be again, I think it will be around 40% approximately. 40%.
Okay. Okay.
And so what our plan is to reduce the dependency on contract manufacturing, reduce the dependency, and increase our own product line so that, the turnover, the bottom lines are a little more on the higher side.
Definitely. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Participants, you may please limit your questions to 2 per participant. If you have a follow-up question, you may rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Dhiral from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. So if I see our FY17 to FY20 performance, it was largely remained flat around 460 crore revenue. So what explains this muted performance, sir?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
If I see our FY17 to FY20 financial performance, it was largely remained flat. So wanted to know what explains this muted kind of a performance for maybe 4 years.
Okay. What was the reason for the muted performance for the last 4 years is what you're saying?
Yeah, except of FY21.
Okay. So, see, regarding the last 4 years, again, the company was majorly focusing on CMOs, CROs, and those sort of activities, actually. And now I think more products have been validated. Again, as in my speech, I very clear mentioned, right? So we validated a lot of products, and it takes time. Again, most of the customers that we operate from that facilities are US and Europe customers. It will take easily 2 years for them to, validate the product, get their approvals required. So I think we've been sowing seeds since the last 2-3 years, and I think all of them have been coming into converting into commercial sales at this point of time. So considering that, so that was the major thing. See, I think year-wise, I think our dependency on CMO was like at that point of time around 80%. Slowly it came down to 70%, 60%, now 50%, 40%. Like that, we want to, the percentage, we don't want to take that. I mean, that revenue will be there, but we want to parallelly add our own products and, balance that CMO this thing out so that we are not a one product or a one this thing company actually.
Okay. And so just last one thing, what was the contribution from the COVID-related portfolio and what was the growth seen in X of COVID portfolio?
Ms. Lakshna, you want to add to that?
No, I'm not able to hear, sir. The voice is break.
Yeah. Sir, in FY21, what was the contribution from the COVID portfolio, COVID-related benefit which we have seen, and what was the growth seen in X of COVID portfolio?
No, sir. First of all, we are not seeing any growth on the COVID-related products. So that is only our executive director has already told that is only for the opportunity selling. But it's not we are putting into our portfolio in the next couple of quarters or couple of years.
Sorry, in FY21, I'm talking about FY21.
FY21 about 10 to 15% of my total contribution, the COVID related product.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashish Rathi from Lucky Investment. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So ranitidine NDA indications are completely over for us?
So again, see, the impact on SMS, major ranitidine is being done at SMS Life Sciences. I think SMS Pharma only supplied ranitidine into regulated markets actually. So as of now, again, ranitidine is being such a sensitive issue in the US and Europe. So as of now, we've not manufactured anything post the NDMA. So before NDMA also, obviously not much sales were there because we were just about to launch with some of our partners, I think, but it was very, very minimal contribution, ranitidine. I think I would say less than 1% actually.
Yes, correct, sir, correct.
SMS Pharma, pardon me again, but SMS Pharma and SMS Life were merged, right?
No, demerged.
Yeah. From SMS Pharma demerged with the SMS Life Sciences.
Okay, so we have no stake in that company now, or we have? Yeah? Do we have
we in the sense? No. We in the sense, like, do you mean the promoters or like?
No, the company.
Look, SMS Pharma doesn't have any stake in SMS Life Sciences, no.
Sorry, what do you think?
I'll tell you, sir. SMS Pharma is independent and SMS Life Sciences is independent. There are no consolidation of the revenues or anything.
But there are overlapping businesses here, right?
Pardon?
Overlapping businesses are there, or
there is no
overlapping.
Overlapping
for different products, actually, not business. I would say there are overlapping products, but it's for different markets. So directly, there's no overlapping business.
Overlapping products are there, you're saying?
Overlapping products are there, yes.
Which products are overlapping, and why are you having different companies under the same promoter?
I'm sorry. See, the thing is, SMS Life Sciences is not USFDA approval. So SMS Pharma is USFDA approved. So we are selling only some of these products to US markets and Europe markets. SMS Life Sciences is taking ROW and domestic markets with some of those products. So that's the only difference.
And what is the sales for SMS Life?
With that, we are not this thing, actually.
You are asking about the independent of SMS Life?
No, you are asking about
SMS Pharma to SMS Life.
No, I'm asking, sir, how big is SMS Life? Because we are...
No.
We will be
This is not a right form to...
This is not a right forum to ask about another company, actually.
Yeah.
So it's relevant in the sense that as investors...
No, it's not relevant. I think, Mr. I already told about that there are the independent companies and independently listed companies. You can talk about the independently only. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Vamshi Krishna for closing comments.
Thank you. So multiple industry tailwinds such as favorable geopolitical conditions, Make in India, PLI schemes, China Plus One strategy, cost structure coupled with internal triggers such as capacity expansion, leadership position in key therapeutic, and strong balance sheets are expected to drive the next leg of growth along with improved margins and return ratios. I thank everyone for joining us on this call. Please reach out to our IR consultants, strategic growth advisors, or us directly should you have any further queries. I think that's about it from our side. I think we can close the call now. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of SMS Pharmaceuticals Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.
Thank you.